Hello, I'm attorney Brian Mittman, and I want to bring you some important information today about the independent medical exam, the IME, and why insurance companies use this process to deny you benefits, take away your medical care, and basically cause problems. So there's a whole series of questions that we are always asked about, and I wanted to go through some of those questions, answer them today as simply as possible. And if you have more questions or you need further information about your particular case or some type of question like that, please just feel free to reach out to us. This is an informal conversation, so I'm going to try to keep most of the legal talk out of it. But it is important because what happens at the independent medical exam, the IME, can make or break your case. What is the purpose of the IME, the independent medical exam? You would think that it was an important thing that the insurance companies would do because they want to find out really what is happening with your medical condition. However, the insurance company uses this type of examination where they pay for it from a doctor that they hire in order to figure out whether you have an ongoing disability or you need certain medical care. What I always tell my clients is the insurance company uses this to find a way to lower your payments or stop your payments and to deny you the medical care that you need. Now, sometimes they will approve certain medical treatments, but you have to go through this entire process just to get the benefits that the law says you deserve. And you would think it makes sense to get you medical care as quickly as possible. The insurance companies use the IME examination as a way to control costs and to get you out of the system. I received an IME 5 notice. Now what? First and foremost, the IME 5 is the official form that the New York State Workers' Compensation Board makes the insurance companies use to notify you of your examination. And it is extremely important that you read over the form, you keep a copy, and you make sure you mark down the date of your examination. Interestingly, on that form, it has a section that asks whether the doctor, the insurance company's doctor, intends to record the examination. Most of the time, I see that it is either not checked off or it is checked off no. That has no bearing on your ability to actually record the examination, which we will speak about later. But once again, the important thing is you are supposed to get this notice in the mail. If you have an attorney, your attorney is supposed to get a copy, and you then have to keep that appointment. So make sure, take a look at your mail. I often get asked, do I have to go to the insurance company's medical exam? After all, this is the third or the fourth or the fifth time they have had me examined. The short answer is yes. You really do need to attend the exam unless your attorney tells you not to. If your doctor is requesting medical treatment, if you're claiming you are not working because of your medical condition from a work accident and you want to get wage benefits, then you will need to see the insurance company's doctor, unfortunately. Now, they cannot abuse that process, but there are some insurance companies that, like clockwork, will have you see their doctor every 6 weeks. If they don't like what a particular doctor is saying, they'll go ahead and doctor shop and hire some other guy or woman who just doesn't know what they're doing. Remember, the independent medical exam is not your doctor. It is a doctor hired by the insurance company to serve a specific purpose, and you know that the insurance company doctors know who is paying them and why they are getting paid, and they are not going to do something that's going to cut off that golden goose. How much notice am I entitled to? That is a good question. You are supposed to receive notice to see an IME doctor at least 7 business days prior to the examination. And it also must be within a reasonable distance of where you live. You are entitled to get reimbursed for travel to and from the independent medical exam. But if you live in the Bronx and they set you up for an independent medical exam in southern Brooklyn, that is not really reasonable. So make sure you let us know if you have a question as to how far they are sending you to go see a doctor. It has to be within a reasonable distance as well, and they have to give you proper notice. What happens if I miss the IME? That is a really good question. As mentioned earlier, you should make all efforts to attend the independent medical exam since it can have such an impact on your case. However, if you're going to miss the exam because you're sick, there was an emergency, or something else happened, what you should do is on that IME 5 notice, you can call the company and postpone the exam, or call your attorney and we will help you postpone the exam. Most of the companies require 48-hour notice, but there's nothing in the law that says you cannot cancel. You just have to give a reasonable reason why you cannot attend. And what will happen is it will get rescheduled. Now, if the insurance company doesn't like what you're doing because, you missed an exam or two, then they'll try to get back in front of a judge. And if you have a reasonable excuse and proof that you tried to cancel, then the judge will give you another opportunity to be examined by the insurance company doctor. Who can examine you? First and foremost, just like your own doctor, in order to be examined by an independent medical exam doctor, that has to be a doctor, a podiatrist, a chiropractor, or another authorized specialist who is authorized under the New York State Workers' Compensation Law and properly licensed. In fact, the New York State Workers' Compensation Board issues code letters to various doctors, both treating doctors and independent medical examiners. And they specifically say, here's what you can treat for, and on the IME side, here is what you can examine for. For instance, if the insurance company wants to have you examined on a neurological issue, but they send you to an orthopedist, that's kind of dumb. If they want you to see a back specialist and they send you to a foot specialist, that is dumb. However, as long as the doctor is licensed and as long as the doctor has the IME code letters from the Workers' Comp Board, they can have you examined. Many of these doctors are way past retirement and they do only these medical exams. As I've mentioned before, there's not much about these examinations that are really medical exams, and these are not your doctors. The rules basically indicate that the exam has to be in a reasonable place. So this is not just the distance issue that we spoke about before within a certain easily accessible place, but you need to be in a special or a regular place of business during normal business hours, and there has to be privacy. Many of the places that you go to will be overcrowded and kind of gross. But if it is an office, a legitimate office, then they can examine you. I strongly suggest, depending on where you go and looking around what is happening, that you pay attention to what you share with people in a waiting room and what you fill out and forms that you use if there's people crowded around you and stuff like that. But the bottom line is you are entitled to reasonable privacy and dignity, and you should pay attention, but understand that if it is a normal place of business, then they will be able to have the exam there. Can I bring somebody with me? Absolutely. I encourage every one of my clients to always have somebody escort them to and into the exam room. You have a 100% right to bring somebody with you to the exam and to have that person with you in the examination room. You don't need to have a person there if you're worried about, privacy or whatever. But guess what? The IME is going to be the only other witness unless there's a nurse or some type of technician in the room. you have the right to bring somebody with you. Will the exam be recorded? As I've mentioned before, the doctor from the IME company has to check off that they want to record the exam. However, you, as the injured worker, have a 100% right to record your exam no matter what. You don't have to, sneak your phone in there quietly in your pocket. You can sit there and hold your phone up and record the examination. In fact, that is why I recommend that you bring somebody with you so that person can record your examination. And in fact, here's how you should do it. Walk into the room for the exam. Hi, this is Brian. It is now 2:06. I am watching the beginning of the examination. Record. It is now 2:22 and the exam is over. The reason I tell you to put the time frame on it, often the exam will last only 5 minutes. Could be a little longer. The doctor may spend a lot of time talking to you and barely examining you. And then all of a sudden, they will issue a 12-page written report that they did all of these different physical and mental examinations of you. If you have the recording that tells you how long it took, we can use that to impeach the credibility. That is, to really stick it to the IME if we have to take the testimony to show that they were lying or that they made a bad report based upon the examination they did or did not perform. So yes, you can record the exam. Who provides transportation to the IME? Normally, you are required to get to and from an IME, but you can submit a reimbursement form called a C-257 to be reimbursed for each mile traveled to get to and from the insurance company's medical exam, or if you take public transportation. There are times where the insurance companies will pay for transportation given what your conditions are or where their doctor is located, and you just need to speak with them ahead of time or let us know so we can help arrange that. Should I bring my medical records? No. The insurance company is required to provide appropriate documentation to the IME doctor to review along with your examination. You are not required to bring medical, and we generally do not encourage you to bring medical. Why? Because there are strict rules about how the doctor reviews the medical, how the doctor writes down what he or she reviewed, and we can again use that to undercut the credibility and truthfulness of that doctor. The other important thing is this. Oftentimes we don't know what you're going to bring. Now, if you're at your doctor today and your doctor says, I really need to get you an MRI or you need to have surgery, and he hands you a piece of paper and you have an IME the next day, you can bring that to the IME. But as a general rule, you do not need to bring anything to the independent medical exam. Will I get a copy of the IME examination? Absolutely. The form is called an IME-4, and it is a cover sheet along with the actual typewritten report. Technically, the insurance company has 10 days from the examination to get that submitted to everybody. A copy has to go to you, to your doctor, to the workers' comp board, to the insurance company, and to your attorney if you have one. When you get that, please read over the report and let us know about any inaccuracies or concerns that you have. This is super important because a lot of times there are many things that happen in a case and things can be lost track of, and your help in knowing what is going on will help us. Is there anything I should or should not say to this doctor for the insurance company? I cannot reiterate enough, this is not your doctor. There is no patient-client privilege or patient-doctor privilege here. This is a doctor paid for and hired by the insurance company, period. There's nothing you can do to keep something secret. Everything you say, the doctor will note down. Don't try to guess what the doctor's saying or anything like that. Be sure to understand that you're not going to get medical advice. Oftentimes, these doctors might say something to you and then it doesn't show up in the report. They are not your doctor and they are not your friend. So what is the IME doctor actually looking for? Well, these doctors are going to look to see whether you injured a part of your body and it's somehow related to the actual accident. If you say you fell down the stairs and injured your knee, but you are claiming a head injury, they're going to try to figure out whether you're telling the truth based upon reviewing the records and having an exam of you to see what was going on. So if you fell down the stairs, you banged your knee, you went to the emergency room and you only talked about your knee, and then months later you talk about your head, the IME will probably say it can't be related. Things like that. The IME wants to know whether your injuries are serious. Are they related to the case, and how serious are they? Could you do some work even though you have those conditions? The IME is really going to focus on what's called degree of disability. They're going to say, yes, you have a problem with your back, but I believe you could do sedentary work or medium work. You could do something, even if that's not your job. The IME will still say something like that. Another thing is, are your injuries that you're being examined for because of the accident or a pre-existing condition? Again, if you have had problems with your back in the past, you need to note that in the records that you fill out, and the IME will probably spend a lot of time trying to figure out whether, or maybe not a lot of time, that most of your problems are due to the old back injury. So if you had a back injury 10 years ago, hey, I've worked for 10 years, it hasn't bothered me. That's what you need to say. Something like that. Tell the truth about how that back injury is bothering you, if at all, before the new back injury. The IME is also going to ask you whether you have reached maximum medical improvement, MMI, another one of those workers' compensation acronyms. Basically, at that point, when the independent medical exam thinks that you have plateaued, you've reached a point where you don't need more medical care because you're not going to get better, you just might need some medical care to keep you where you're at, that's the beginning of the end of your case, and the independent medical examiner uses that terminology to determine when your payments or your medical care should kind of hit a certain point, and it's an important part of your case. So be aware that the doctor is looking for that. And also, the doctor is going to look to see whether your current treatment is appropriate and whether other treatments that are requested are appropriate. These are all the things that the independent medical examiner is going to look for and you should pay attention to.